This is the Greenhouse Podcast, our kind of by demand community podcast. We do this. We used to do this once a month. Now we do it whenever like a kind of a big topic comes in. Today we'll be having some folks join us to talk about the recent medical gameplay changes that are coming in with the way that bed spawning is working, and respawning, and the nurse, and kind of, you know, the death of a spaceman, all that kind of stuff. We've got people from different parts of the game, people who do medical beacons, people who just play FPS, people who are just following the development. So we should get some good perspectives here today. I'm going to get us started off with a regular here at the Garden, Dutchman-Ace. Welcome in, buddy. Invited you up to talk. There he is. Can you hear me? Oh, there we go. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Good to see you, dude. Good to hear from you. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, mate. Pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. Do you have any way of turning yourself up a bit? A little quiet on my end.
Is this better?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you. All right, man. We got 6 minutes on the clock. Fill my ears. Tell me what you're feeling about the medical gameplay changes.
I'm actually really liking it. No, I'm not somebody who goes on a lot of medical rescues, but I see that this will change it actually. The medical spawns on the beds, that it changes that for those who like to do that, but for the general player, I think it's great. They don't need to have a big expensive ship like a Carrack to be able to respawn during bunker missions or whatnot. I think it's a really good quality of life feature.
So do you worry about the people who do choose that gameplay as their main line, like reviving people doing medical beacons?
No, because there are still people who are not going to have the ships, and there's still going to be people that are going down in bunkers. There's just going to be less, but there's still going to be those people.
But if there already are so few, then less would be even worse, huh?
I guess you got a point there, but I do see a lot of medical beacons pop up whenever I'm playing, so they pop up a lot.
I see. Volume is very low. Okay.
High volume?
I will confirm. But keep going. So do you think that they might be planning on expanding the medical gameplay after this sometime soon? Or is this just kind of a random change? Like you said on Star Citizen Live, they just wanted to get it out.
Well, as I've been developing it, as I've been, lost the word.
No problem.
Can't find a word. As I've been looking into it, they already intended this to be, but never got it out the way they did now. So yeah, it's kind of changed that they brought it out with the Ursa, but at the same time, it was always intended to be this way, as I've heard. I like it. I don't know what it's gonna do for the future. Right now, a tier 3 medical bed is 20 clicks, but it might really change. I'm curious to see where it goes.
Yeah, they can definitely complicate the system through other means besides just restricting what ships there are to spawn in. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I'm really curious where it's going, and I'm expecting that the tier 3 bed is not gonna stay 20 clicks. I think it's gonna go way down, like 10, maybe even 5 clicks.
It would be, yeah. I'm wondering what kind of complications they'll run into when it comes to that. Like when we're testing it, what kind of system or what kind of situations we'll be in which that distance actually makes a difference. I feel like when I'm playing the game, the scale that I'm playing on is usually hundreds of clicks or 1 click. Like I'm either flying a ship and going dozens or hundreds of kilometers away, or I'm on the ground traveling by foot maybe 1 to 2 kilometers away, and it feels like I wouldn't really be considering the ships like that too often unless I was getting in a ship and flying all the way away from wherever that respawn was set.
Yeah. What I am curious about is we know the distance for a tier 3 and a tier 2 bed, but we don't know the distance for a tier 1. Does that mean that that distance is indefinite?
I would assume so. I think that's the idea behind it, in order to make sure that that is seen as the all-powerful bed. You know, one bed to rule them all. It's got no range, or it's got all the range.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm happy to see those changes, and I'm happy to see, or I'm curious to see where it's gonna go.
And that's specifically because the game right now is just very frustrating to get started again over and over.
Yeah, and especially with how easily you die. It's a good thing we don't have Death of the Spaceman in yet, because it's so easy to die. Just getting out of a hangar is already like a 50-50. Am I going to blow up? Yes or no?
Well, whenever we do start dying a lot less, do you think your view on this kind of a change would be different? Like,
Mm,
let's say you were dying an average of once every 3 weeks.
I would be really interested in seeing how it goes then, even if they implement it now. As far as I know, basically you don't lose anything. Your character degrades, and you gotta make a new character, and basically you're the legacy of. It's not like you're gonna lose your ships or anything else. It's just you're gonna lose your character, as far as I understand. So in that case, I'm not too worried about it, even if they implement it right now.
You mean, I'm sorry, you mean implement the idea that,
Death of the Fate.
okay. But when it comes to changing the medical beds, like you said, the main reason that you're interested in it is because you die so much. If you didn't die so much, would you still want them to maintain the restrictions to medical beds?
Mm, I don't get the question too well, but yeah, we do die a lot, especially in bunkers, etc. I would.
I more mean just if you were dying a lot less, would you care about this change?
Probably not as much.
Okay. Just
It's I would still really be happy, being able to respawn on something else, like an Ursa rover. Let's say doing bunker missions, quickly get an Ursa, park it there, and I die. Oh well, I spawn there and I go back in. Um, but other than that, I don't really use medical beds that often. It's more that I spawn there because I died than anything else.
it's just the idea of spawning more easily is something you're
Yeah,
interested in.
more conveniently, so I don't have to travel from Arco to Microtech because I died on Microtech. It's now like I can have a medical ship or a medical Ursa standing there by the bunker, and it's like, yeah, well, I can just spawn here and go back in, retrieve my goods, instead of having to spend another 45 minutes.
Would you How do you feel about logging on and off anywhere in the game as well?
Um, I haven't really thought about it yet. In general, I like the bed logging, as in I'm somewhere in space and I bed log, and it's fine, it's done. But just logging off anywhere on any planet and logging back in there, I don't know. On one hand, I like it, and on the other hand, I haven't put too much thought in it because I always just go back to the city and I wake up in the city the next time I play. So I haven't really put thought in it.
So the feeling you have about the convenience of the respawn is very strictly about medical respawns, dying and restarting.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this slot and talking a little bit about this. I appreciate your feedback on it.
You're welcome.
Thanks for joining us on the greenhouse, man, and I will see you around, Dutch.
All right. See you, mate.
See you later. There's going to be a lot of different views on this system, and it's a big design change, I think. Not so much that like it wasn't planned, as they said on Star Citizen Live. It's something that they wanted to do, and I think it's not something that necessarily like breaks the game. They can definitely work around this and work with resources, but it's it is still a big move for such like a simple thing to happen. It does have a lot of like ramifications and kind of things that you can read into about it. But I'm looking forward to seeing how this develops long term. The next guest is coming in. Cole Gentleman. Thanks for joining us. Hop on in whenever you're ready, and we'll have a chat about medical stuff. Hello, how are you doing? May be muted. Let me double check permissions here.
I was muted. How are you?
Okay, we're good. I almost just showed everybody our permission system. I'm good. Good to see you. Thanks for jumping in here. You got?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. You got things to say about medical? You feel strong about it?
I don't strongly about it. No, I do feel. I like the changes so far, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I think anything that makes it a little less punishing is probably for the better when it comes to getting more people in the game and keeping it going.
So you're thinking more about what is the most popular option kind of thing rather than your own personal interest, or is it's also something that you would prefer the game followed?
I mean, I don't. It's not out of pure altruism for the game by any stretch. I certainly wouldn't mind the convenience of it at all, but also I think it's just indicative of the way some of the systems are going to go in the future.
You think they're going to start simplifying a lot of stuff?
I don't think it's necessarily simplifying it as much as giving you an option to take the easier road. And I isn't, you can respawn, but once Death of the Spaceman is in, it'll have repercussions and consequences.
So you're kind of hoping that they do this and make respawning easier, but also still add a lot of consequences in, so like people don't want to die.
I think that's the bit. So you can respawn, but you'll lose something. If you've got a pal around who can revive you, then you don't have to face those consequences. And you have the option either way. If it's gameplay you want to engage in with the medics and having someone come and doing the beacon and getting somebody out there to give you a hand, then you'll be rewarded for engaging in that kind of gameplay.
It does still reward people for bringing the stuff that they need in terms of the proper ship. It just limits. It kind of limits the ability of the ship. One of the things that I'm thinking is they have these larger medical ships like the Apollo or the Endeavor that are supposed to be sitting out in space as this kind of mobile respawn location. And I wonder if that'll be diminished by the amount of people who have their own respawn locations so readily available.
I'm pretty confident they'll endeavor to find whatever purpose for those ships that they'll have. I mean, it's in their best interest to make sure that the people who have bought those stay happy and stay satisfied and get to enjoy them, and all that kind of good stuff.
True, but Johnny FPS guy doesn't like getting injuries during his FPS training and thinks that it should be easier to solve his own injuries. Screw your Cutlass Red.
Well, Johnny FPS guy can respawn in a Nursa and then also lose his character and have to start all over again, right?
Perhaps, but Johnny FPS might not like that either. I feel pain for Star Citizen because they constantly have to answer for things that they're trying to do for gameplay purposes while also contending with the demands of players that just straight up want, that gameplay goes against what they're doing. Medical goes against FPS. Mining might go against, I don't know, FPS. It's like it feels like a losing battle all the time when it comes to some of these things.
I totally see what you mean. I do. I think it's the nature of the beast of a game that's still in the development stage as it is. As unique as this is, compared to everything else out there, as far as where we're playing it and what time in the development we've been playing it.
How long have you been following?
I've been following since it's announced, but I didn't build a computer until last summer, so I've only been on since October, I think.
Okay. So you didn't get to play before they had like the medical system?
No. I came in at 320, but and it was a good time to come in from everything that I've followed over the years, it felt like it was the right time.
Yeah, it's hit a bit of a. It's been a little rough 318, and now the wait for 323 was kind of rough, but yeah, it's a good time because things are definitely starting to speed up. And as you can see, there's the conversations now are a lot more about these types of things, design changes, and the gameplay that makes the game matter, as opposed to like, oh god, I don't know, any number of topics that didn't really matter that much over the last 6 years. It's a good time to be jumping in for sure. Welcome.
Hey, thank you very much. It's been a blast, and the guild has been great.
Any other thoughts about medical gameplay where you maybe want to see it expand to, or are you interested at all in it, or are you just kind of is it a thing that you have to deal with as a person going about other types of gameplay?
No, I like it quite a bit, and I like the changes. Anything that fleshes anything that fleshes any of our systems out just a little bit more, I'm very interested in and excited to see where it goes. Again, I like it, and I like having more options as a player. You know, it makes it less of a slog to get in.
That's fair. I definitely see how that's gonna be something that sounds a lot better to a lot more players, and I hope that this is I really do hope that this is one of those things where they're making it a straightforward thing that makes it easy to understand and make use of and benefit from, but then they add in the things that make it something that you just don't want to have to like pay for or use resources for or something. Because the consequence of death, I think, is a big selling point of this game for a lot of people.
I agree absolutely, and again, as these systems get more fleshed out, we'll start to see exactly what those systems are going to look like in a bigger picture sort of sense, and it's neat to see it inch that way.
Yeah. All right, Cole. Thank you so much for coming in here and sharing your thoughts. Any last thoughts you wanted to give before hopping off?
None whatsoever. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem. Have a good day. All right, so somebody asked what Death of a Spaceman is. To put it into not super complex terms, Death of a Spaceman is basically a pseudo permadeath mechanic where you have some number of lives. I think it's probably something 7 or more. And these lives can only be lost through catastrophic damage. You take a railgun to the body, you get smashed by a spaceship crashing. There is a bomb dropped right next to you. Like, really bad things need to happen for you to completely just die and not just get like bad injuries and be crippled. When you do die, you don't actually lose your character. Your character is regenerated and you take some hits. Reputation loss, might get a permanent injury and need a cybernetic limb. You might get some scarring on your character model. You will probably have to pay for life insurance or for being revived. And just in general, respawning and dying are supposed to be some fairly hefty losses, which is why that Nursa trailer just did not make sense. But after you go through those 7 lives, and there will be ways to add more lives, there will be ways to possibly add more lives to that counter, or maybe somehow, I don't know, make your life last longer. Whatever it might be, there will be ways to do that. And once you get to the end of that round of lives, all 7 of them or however many you get, your character is gone. You lose your character. It is a permadeath for that character, and your stuff all gets passed on to your next of kin, another character that you've designed in the game. It's not losing a ton of progress. What it does is it wipes out a lot of your reputation, right? You're the kid of this person. You're no longer that person, so you have to make up a lot of that rep back, which is your main progression. You lose a lot of money from inheritance fees or something like that. You probably have to like move your house or something. There will be a lot of consequences, but the idea is that you will lose that character and have to start over with a new character in the fiction. All of this basically to add importance to death and consequences for it. So there's going to be a balance between what they're doing now and Death of a Spaceman. We'll have to see how that goes. Next guest, though, I'm sure has plenty to speak on about this. You guys remember him from a gameplay video I did earlier this year. where we did our own medical rescue, which is his main form of gameplay. So I'm interested in hearing what AAK has to say about the changes to this content. Welcome in, my friend. Good to see you.
Hey, Tomato. The thing is working?
Yes, it is. How was your trip around Europe?
Oh, amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Good
Of
to
course,
hear.
first 2 days back in Florida, and I got sick because this place is awful.
Because Florida.
Yeah.
Are you sure it wasn't a side effect from the medical gameplay updates?
I mean, the number of messages I saw on Spectrum and in Discord saying, hey, sorry about your game loop, pal, was very confusing coming back after, testing the EPTU for a bit and then never
Condolences.
knowing that this was going to be a thing. I
Yeah.
mean, I had some indication because maybe the second patch of the EPTU cycle, personal transport beacons just miraculously disappeared. And there hasn't been a word on that. And they're still not back. So I had some inkling that, I don't know, the appearance that this players are being herded away from using beacons. CIG allegedly does everything based on data and feedback. I don't know where the feedback comes from because I read Spectrum and didn't see anything about this for the last 3 years. And then the data, I mean, if you take away a beacon, if you don't fix them when issue council reports are confirmed, if you don't make small changes that could make the experience for both sides of the equation, rescuer or sender, or if you relegate the notification for beacons going out to the side of the screen where your players can't accept it with left bracket. I mean, this is going to move people away from using them, and then the data will reflect what you want it to reflect. Not that it matters anyway because we can't see it, but so yeah, I don't know about this change. I think anything that takes away from the actual medical gameplay, which it exists. There was a guy in in-game chat earlier who said, "Oh, there is no medical gameplay. You don't do anything." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And just imagine all of it. I guess it's fun for a lot of people. I mean, I get that people don't want to wait. The trap thing is negligible. I'm not even going to touch on that. That was a 3.16 introductory thing. Like that's just not really a thing anymore.
What was that?
The beacons being trapped, it's such a rare thing. The waiting is the real thing.
Yeah.
People not showing up or taking 45 minutes to get out there. And that could have been easily corrected with just a beacon resend feature. Hey, if you're the guy or girl is coming out to get you and they're taking 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, no response in in-game chat, and you want to resend the beacon, hit this button, boop, and it goes out to the server again for someone else to take it. That was a low-hanging fruit change they could have made to help reduce the amount of time players have to wait. Maybe it goes out to someone closer, maybe it goes out to someone who's paying attention or is more prepared for that type of gameplay. So I think that the issues a lot of people have with using beacons could have been reduced through small changes, but I don't think this was one of them. I mean, also, come on, you've turned medical ships into just respawn points. You could have done that with anything.
Yeah.
You might as well take the label off the outside. Like, what are you doing here? And I'm not talking about Death of a Spaceman. I don't care about that. I don't think that'll ever come to fruition.
Really?
I think these guys figured it out. The only way for them to make a real profit long term is to start diluting. You cannot maintain the integrity of any of the original visions from years ago and expect to have the type of profit that you see major mass marketed games making. And this is the way you go. You put the glint on the sniper rifle, you put the crosshair out there so people know which way the bullets come out of the gun. You make mobile respawn points. This is all telltale signs that these guys are thrown in the towel. And
But it sounds like you're coming from the perspective that profit is their goal.
right, and it should be. They're a company.
They're not a company with investors, though. I mean, this is a company that's driven by somebody's desire to do something. Well, at least that's how it started. But they've never really been a high profit company.
Maybe they changed their mind. Maybe they need more people to sign up and buy more ships. I mean, I really shouldn't delve into the financial stuff because I haven't followed it enough closely to really form an opinion that's worth anything on it. But it sure seems like it's just go in a certain direction, and I feel like this is just one more thing. And the idea that, well, we need more death is too punishing. Oh, for new players, we're all new players. We all approached this game and stuck around because it was interesting with all of the jank, with all of the bugs, with all of the crap that players have had to deal with. Long before I ever started playing the game, people stuck around, and more accounts are made every day, every week. Players want to play this as it is. So why do we need to make things easier or more convenient or the greatest thing, reduce the tedium? Oh, I died to a lot of bugs. Oh, we'll make mobile respawn points. That'll fix it. No, fix the bugs. And people will die to less bugs and feel like the game is less punishing or less tedious.
Right, but people
you
always
still
say,
need...
well, people always say fix the bugs. We know that's just not going to happen until the systems are better.
Right. And I get it. It's a work in progress, and it's a Herculean effort, and I know they've got a lot on their plate. But come on, you've got this. Go ahead.
What if during this change they had come out and said, "Hey, we're making this change because we're shifting the focus of medical gameplay to include more gameplay. It's just going to be less focused around the respawning mechanics." Like, what if they were like, "Hey, while we're doing this, we're also bringing in broken bones. You can set bones. You can you can create cures for specific poisons or toxicity levels." Is that if they were still saying, yeah, we might be doing this to change respawning and that stuff, but medical gameplay isn't necessarily getting diminished, it's just shifting its focus, would that be good, or would you still feel the same way?
I think the same issues that people have with beacons and the same people who are cheering this change are the same people who would not want to be on the receiving end of any of that type of gameplay.
But that's not
because
their
that's
call.
locking the player. Right, of course. But that's largely the complaint, is that, well, I don't want to have to call for help because they might take a while, or on the rare occasion, they might steal my pledge pants. If you're now forcing which I don't necessarily agree with either, is forcing a player to, I don't know, undergo surgery. I don't think the player should necessarily have an extended down period either, where they're, fading in and out or really can't do anything, because for that other person, that may not be gameplay. But there are a lot of people who enjoy the beacon side of gameplay. And I'd like to see those people, myself included. Obviously, I have a vested interest in this because I enjoy it. But I'd like to see them not drowned out by a sudden discovery of data and feedback that nobody's ever seen on Spectrum in any sort of meaningful amount. So adding those more complex elements of medical gameplay, I mean, would be cool, but I think that would be more directed towards NPCs when they get all of that together. I don't think they would levy that on other players, because it may take more time to get a player back in the fight, and some players may not like that.
But they're already doing that with injuries.
Yeah, I guess, but right now, I mean, and again, like I don't delve much into the speculation, because I mean, I was told to my face at a Bar Citizen that fuel beacons were going to be out by the end of the year, which was at that time
fuel beacons.
Just a few months. The Starfare's broken again. There's no fuel beacons. There's no towing beacons for the SRV. I mean, the ways that players can organically engage with one another for game loops of their choosing are limited, and becoming more limited now that you're just giving people the agency to avoid anything they want.
I would say maybe becoming more limited in some ways, but the game overall is definitely becoming more interactive between players. I mean, just in the past year, we've seen salvage cooperative cargo stuff engineering is coming in pretty soon. It definitely,
I
agree.
can't even speak to that. I don't know anything about salvage and all that, so I'll take your word for it. I don't know.
I agree with you that some of the areas of the game are definitely taking moves that feel like they go against the grain of a lot of the other stuff that's been happening over the years, though.
Yeah, it's. I mean, for me, it's just a simple thing. It's just a simple thing, which may not be simple for CIG, and like I've said before, we all play a game to enjoy something, and you find that thing that you enjoy in the game, and you jealously defend it when it comes under attack. And I didn't like the C8R even coming out. I thought that was the first shot across the bow, because if you give players a ship that they can wedge in the bunker door, when they get a tier 3 injury, they hobble back to the elevator, go up, heal themselves, and go right back down. Before that ship, they'd get a tier 3 injury, they'd get a tier 2 injury, and they would die. And they were either backspace, which eventually may become a bad thing to do, or the hold M. And someone like myself, hopefully in a fast ship, hopefully cognizant that a player is waiting on the other end, will respond as quickly as possible. And they'll get their gameplay. And again, it's two sides of the coin, and players like me who do this full time have to consider how the players on the receiving end want the game to go too.
Yeah, I get that. That's the hardest part. You got a player on the other side of gameplay when it comes to player and player interaction, thinking about both of their gameplays and how they can both be fun and sustainable. It doesn't sound like a fun thing to figure out, and I hope that they do find a way to still make that a reality in medical. I know that this feels like it's kind of shutting the door on that gameplay for you, but there's a lot of stuff they still haven't figured out that I do hope brings some of it back. I think that we should have heard more about medical gameplay by now.
Yes, especially with the Apollo on the horizon, but the fact that they shelved personal transport beacons completely without a word, the fact that they've relegated the notification for medical rescue or assistance beacons to the side screen, which was always a big problem, which is how many notifications we have up top. Well, beacons are a mission too. The fact that they've never made them shareable, the fact that they never fixed the marker issues that appeared at the end of 320 and into 321 for rescue beacons and personal transport beacons just suggests a pattern here of non-importance for that slice of the gameplay pie. And I hope that's not a continuing trend. I hope medical ships just aren't these giant red targets now because they're a respawn point.
I certainly do hope that that the dang it, what did you just say? that completely slipped my mind. Nope, I lost it.
It was a chicken parmesan recipe, but
yeah,
you're not going to get it.
Yeah, that was. Oh, it sounded really good too. Dang it. No, I'm hopeful though that the gameplay they can figure something out. I think my biggest hope is that the beacon system is just like the star map or the interaction system or whatever. It's outdated. It's done. They need to remove it and replace it with an actual player makeable mission system. That's high hopes, but it's what I hope for these kinds of things.
Yeah, there could be all sorts of beacons. Beacons for food.
Beacons for
supplies.
Yeah.
I mean, giving the players the ability to create their own gameplay is a fantastic idea, in my opinion. If giving them the ability to respawn now is part of increasing player agency in the game, then beacons should have been on the forefront of that, allowing players to interact with each other beyond just making parties or beyond, only using chat or being in orgs or Discord or what have you. I think it was a missed opportunity and something that these guys have not mentioned one bit. And that's all we want at the end of the day for anything. I mean, I'm not asking about the Banu Merchant Man. I'm asking about something that was there and then just disappeared. Just give me something, just hold me, Xylo, and tell me it's going to be okay.
Well, we will see where it goes. AAK, thank you so much for joining me for this, man. I hope the gameplay moves in a direction that you're looking into.
Thanks, Tomato.
Appreciate your thoughts on it, man. Have a good one.
Bye.
Alrighty, and our next, I wanted to have AAK on here because he is the main medical person that I know. We ran a mission together like that, and I know that this kind of stuff really affects his gameplay. And you'll hear the same kind of sentiment for a lot of different things. It's similar to how people feel about the combat system changing with master modes, and they're kind of the gameplay that worked for them but maybe doesn't work for the majority of the community gets changed, and it feels kind of like that's diminishing your gameplay. This is definitely that time of the development of this game. I can even see something like that where it's not my main gameplay or anything, but like bed logging is something that I'm very interested in hearing more about. I really don't have a torch lit about it at this point. But I'd like to know more of the details about them, because it does seem like some of the changes they're making are meant to lower the bar of entry to this game, but it leaves them a lot of opportunity to build in hurdles that make those things still more difficult for folks who are getting more in depth. So it really comes down to, what are you guys going to follow all of these changes up with? And I hope that they communicate that to us a little bit effectively this summer, so that we can know how to set our sights long term. I think that roadmap to 1.0 might give us some more insight on that, but ultimately this will be a communication thing for sure. Our final guest, it looks like, is Baltzen from the community. Come on in, my friend. Tell me what you think about the medical gameplay changes coming up. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. You are you a medic by trade?
I am. I am a medic by trade, yes.
And how do you feel?
15 years in the medical field, and I am very disheartened. The game loop in this game for medical play has been a little challenging, and I share a lot of sentiment with AA, with a lot of his opinions on how it's going and the direction that CIG is taking with this. With the new Ursa rover coming out, it really kind of hurts the ability for the advancement of the individual, like, onboard medic. Working in tactical medicine for many years, working with police departments and different things like that, that was my gameplay. That's something that I challenged myself to do. I'm not an FPS player by any means of the imagination, but getting in with a group of people in an FPS gameplay and being their onboard medic has always been something that intrigues me. It's fun to do. But with these new beacon, or these new outcrops that we can bring right in, it kind of takes away from that game loop. It really does. I mean, people can just, I have a tier 3 injury, I'm just gonna backspace over to my Ursa that's parked right outside and go from there. Because we go to a distribution center, you can drop all your gear into the local inventory, heal yourself, respawn, put all your gear back on, and then you're back fresh again. So for me, it takes away from the ability for the individual medic to be able to prioritize and take care of their team.
Does it feel like this will ruin medical gameplay for, like, if you're a medic, and for instance in GII, do you feel like it makes that a worse experience too?
I think it does. I really do. There's too much more, and there's more room for them to have that ability to have multiple different types of ships available, and multiple different outsources to go. So, in reality, a medic has really kind of fallen to the wayside. It's not needed. So it takes away from my ability to play that game loop and actually enjoy it. So yeah, it's I think it's going in a direction that I'm not overly enthused about. I kind of get where they're going with it. They're trying to simplify things and gear it towards a majority as opposed to a minority. And I hate to say that the medics are the minority, but we really are.
Yeah. That's the problem with these. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, it's the problem with, I guess this is kind of a recurring theme tonight, but just that for every piece of gameplay, there is some other gameplay that's kind of opposing it. And majority of players are doing more FPS stuff rather than more medic stuff, so they want CIG to make the FPS experience better. But ultimately, I think the medical experience being deep and difficult and causing trouble with FPS wouldn't be so bad if people knew that they could maybe, like, if you went down, this wouldn't work, but if you went down, you could choose to just kind of respawn and an NPC would take your place. But that wouldn't make sense. It would have to be dead. You'd have to die for that to work. I don't know. I don't know how they could get away with making this medical gameplay work in a player interaction without having a player that is relatively taken out of the gameplay for a while. That's how I expected it to go, but clearly that's something that they're a little worried about here. Do you have any ideas about that?
I mean, they've essentially taken away the need for having a medic with this game loop. I don't know where CIG is going to go with this. I have an idea. I think they're just going to go away, keep the medical side of things to the wayside, and that's going to be like a limited scope. And when I say limited, I mean extremely limited, because with these close by beacons that they can use respawn points, they can essentially gear it towards the individuals that just want to do FPS. They don't want to worry about, I got a tier 2 injury, I can barely move. I need to have a medic here so I can get to the point where I can actually be survivable before I can get to another location. So they want to just kind of respawn themselves, and I get where you're going with like the NPC being there, taking its place, but then that takes away from the other team. So if you're doing a team effort, like two separate teams opposing each other, now you've taken out one guy, and now you have an NPC that spawns in for itself. I think that would kind of not be a great thing.
No, it wouldn't even work. Because if the NPC gets revived, what happens to the player?
Right. They just
get
SOL.
dragged back in there. I don't know. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's. I think they said this before. It seems they're trying to lower the bar of entry, but I do hopefully believe that they have to. Like, it's not necessarily a game design thing. I think that they are obligated to make sure that the medical category of gameplay in Star Citizen is complex enough to justify the ships that they've created, to justify the systems they've put into place with injuries, with the health app, with all of these different things that tie into medical, all the way down to like insurance. I think that they owe it to the community to still do that. We've got Endeavors, we've got Impalos, we got Cutlass Reds, P8Rs, or whatever it's called, the Pisces, all kinds of things that are medically focused, and I just can't see them wiping all of that out along with this. It feels to me, the more I kind of talk and think about this, that this is something that they want to do, but also follow up with some other changes. The disappointment that I have is that they haven't communicated those other changes effectively.
I agree with you. I mean, the communication for them for the medical gameplay has been non-existent. I mean, they did that interesting video for the Ursa, and I was like, okay, well, that defeats the whole purpose of me playing the game.
It's a weird one.
Yeah, I'm like,
that was
okay,
a weird one.
I guess that's just odd. But I mean, it is what it is. I'm sure it brought in sales. Multiple people probably bought it. I know I'm one of them. I'm an Apollo owner too, so I want to play the game loop, and I'm hoping that CIG realizes, or even has a plan to move forward and institute a real medical gameplay with the capital size ships that they have coming out for medical gameplay, like the Endeavor, like you said. I'm just hoping that we see those traditional injury profiles that we actually have to provide advanced care to, whether it's this person has a compound fracture to their leg, or they have a an open fracture to their arm or whatever the circumstances are, and now they got to go to a surgical suite and they got to get repaired, or it has to be amputated. This is of course more advanced gameplay, and it would require individuals to actually who want to play it. And I know there's a good group of people who want to do that, but at the same point, is it marketable?
Yeah. But I think a lot of us joined in on Star Citizen because stuff that wasn't necessarily widely marketable, but was
Right.
interesting to the game. And the medical is a thing. It's got to be a thing. From the health app that they've added to the fact that you can drug overdose and get poisoned, and like you said, you can break your leg and stuff. All this needs to have a system that backs it and makes it worthwhile. And if they build up this huge injury system, but they don't bring it home with a full medical system to back it up, then you just kind of have this wasted injury system that doesn't really get used.
100%
Besides
agree
just
with
like
you.
people kind of running into debuffs every once in a while and being like, what is this?
Yes, it's challenging right now. I like the direction that they were starting with it in 3.22, and then they moved away from it in 3.23, and it kind of gave you the gut punch of like, wow, are they gearing this towards the players who want to play this stuff, or are they gearing it towards what's going to make them more money?
Well, only time will tell. Let's see what they're doing in a year's time from now. Unfortunately, the Apollo is off the shelf of being worked, or it is on the shelf now from being worked, so we might not actually see anything really all that interesting announced about medical for a while, but I hope that they do something to follow up this year. This would not be a topic to just kind of let lie. But we'll see what they say. Any final thoughts?
No, I really do hope CIG kind of gets a hint with this. I know there is quite a few people in the community that have voiced their concerns and opinions about this. I really hope that CIG takes a foundational stand on this and makes us all regret the words we're speaking now.
Well, thanks for joining me for this one. Appreciate you, Baltzen. Thanks for being a part of the garden.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers. All right, y'all. That is Final Quest guest. And that is our podcast for today, talking about the medical changes. I see a question here, or rather a point about generating injuries from getting regenerated. That's actually part of the lore. Part of the Death of a Spaceman mechanic is that when you're getting regenerated in one of those lives that you've lost, you actually retain some of the trauma that your body got in that previous life. It's sort of a memory, because the way it works is you're basically recording yourself down, and then when you die, those injuries or whatever happens when you die kind of gets overwritten onto your recording or something like that. That's why they've developed things like cybernetics, and they're working on other stuff like scarring. If you go and look at all this kind of stuff, is stuff that they've been doing specifically because Death of a Spaceman will lead to you probably not having limbs after your first few deaths. I just read that message. Thank you guys though for being here for the greenhouse. Hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, we're going to try and do these mainly when there's a big topic that it feels like the community really wants to get in and chat about. So the next one maybe we'll do around 323.2 whenever the cargo stuff is coming in. I think that'll be a big topic. It'll probably be a little while until we figure out where this is all going, but as you know, Star Citizen be Star Citizen, and we're all kind of dragged along for the ride. I hope that they've got good plans for medical, because I do agree with what Baltzen and AAK were saying. There needs to be a segment of the game for every profession, but CIG needs to figure out how to make those factor into the ultimate game and make it a worthwhile experience for everybody. Not an easy challenge, not an easy task at all. But folks, I hope you enjoyed this chat. Thank you so much for being with me today, whether you were here for the ships and feature news before or for this good old podcast. It's always a good time. I'll be live again with you on Monday, probably to play the game because we've done all this chatting over the weekend, and we'll be getting right back into the goods next week. Maybe we'll take some ships out, do some Invictus stuff. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Either way, I appreciate you all. I hope you enjoyed your time here. Man, good day, y'all. Hope you had fun. I will see you on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend. Cheers. You're all amazing people. Love you. Bye.